Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. If you're a fan of coins, history, or just love discovering hidden treasures, then you're in for a real treat today. We're diving into one of the most iconic and often overlooked coins in history, the 1-cent coin. You've probably seen it 1,000 times, but today we'll be uncovering its fascinating history, how its value has evolved over the years, and believe it or not, some 1-cent coins can actually be worth a lot of money today. Stick around till the end because you won't want to miss these incredible finds. The 1-cent coin, also known as the penny, has a history that spans over 200 years in the United States. But did you know that the first American coin was actually a bit of a hodgepodge, and the penny as we know it wasn't even in existence at first? Let's go back to where it all started. In 1792, the U.S. Mint was established with the goal of creating a uniform currency system for the young nation. However, the coinage wasn't exactly what we see today. The first pennies, or copper cents, were minted in 1793, but these were far from the sleek, modern coins we're familiar with. They were actually large copper discs weighing 13.48 grams, almost the size of a modern half-dollar. These early pennies were marked with the phrase "Liberty, parent of science and industry," and on the reverse, a chain of links symbolizing the unity of the states. But the minting process wasn't perfect, and many of these early pennies had issues like poor quality control and awkward designs. As time went on, the design of the penny evolved. In 1909, we saw one of the most significant changes to the penny's design, the introduction of the Lincoln cent. The portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, has been featured on the front of the penny ever since. This iconic design made its debut to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Throughout its history, the penny has seen a variety of design changes. In 1959, to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse of the coin was changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial. And more recently, in 2009, the reverse design was updated to feature 4 different images of Lincoln's life. These included his birth cabin, his formative years in Indiana, his professional years in Illinois, and his presidency. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1-cent coin. The face value of the penny has always been 1 cent, but its purchasing power has changed dramatically over time due to inflation. If you look back to the early 1800s, a penny could buy you more than it can today. For example, in 1800, 1 cent had the buying power equivalent to about $2 in today's money. Imagine being able to buy a loaf of bread or even a nice dinner for just 1 penny. Pretty crazy, right? But over the centuries, as the cost of living increased, the penny became less and less valuable. Today, a penny doesn't have the same purchasing power. In fact, because of inflation, the cost of producing a penny now exceeds its face value. The U.S. Mint actually spends about 1.76 cents to produce each penny, meaning it costs more to make than it's worth in circulation. Now, here's the exciting part. Did you know that some 1-cent coins are worth far more than just their face value? While the majority of pennies are just worth 1 cent, there are rare, valuable pennies that can fetch thousands of dollars. Let's explore some of these hidden treasures. One of the most famous rare pennies is the 1943 copper penny. Most pennies minted that year were made of steel due to a copper shortage caused by World War II. However, a few copper planchets were accidentally used to strike some 1943 pennies. These rare 1943 copper pennies can be worth anywhere from $100,000 to over $1 million, depending on their condition. Then, there's the 1909 SVDB penny, which was minted in San Francisco. Only 484,000 of these were made, and because of its rarity and historical significance, the 1909 SVDB penny can be worth thousands of dollars, especially in mint condition. A well-preserved one can sell for as much as $1,000 to $2,000. Another incredibly rare penny is the 1914 Lincoln cent. This coin, which was minted in Denver, is considered one of the most sought after by collectors. Depending on the condition, a 1914 penny can be worth anywhere from $50 to $100,000. Even the more common pennies, like the 1955 double die, can fetch serious money if they have errors like double strikes in the design. The 1955 double die is especially valuable, with some examples worth upwards of $10,000 in excellent condition. So, should you go digging through your change jar to see if you have a hidden gem? Well, the odds of finding a rare penny in your everyday pocket change are slim. However, it's always worth keeping an eye out, especially for coins from certain years or ones with obvious errors in their design. If you happen to find a 1943 copper penny or a 1909 SVDB penny, you might just want to take it to a professional coin dealer or get it appraised. Who knows, you could be sitting on a small fortune. The 1-cent coin may seem insignificant at first glance, but it carries with it a rich history and a story that spans centuries. While the penny's face value may not buy you much today, certain rare pennies can still hold immense value. So, next time you come across a 1-cent coin, you might want to take a closer look. You could be holding a small piece of history. Thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey into the world of the 1-cent coin. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me about any rare coins you've come across. Until next time, happy collecting! We've got a special treat for all you coin enthusiasts and history lovers. We're going to take an in-depth look at the 1984 1-cent coin. On the surface, it may seem like just another penny, but trust me, there's more to this little coin than you might think. We'll dive into its history, its value, and yes, its potential worth on the collector's market. You might be surprised at how much this seemingly humble penny could actually be worth. Let's get started. To understand the significance of the 1984 penny, we need to start by looking at the broader context of U.S. coinage during the 1980s. The early 80s was an interesting time in American history, and that period saw changes in both the economy and the way coins were made. In the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint had already transitioned to using primarily zinc-based pennies. This was after the government decided to reduce the amount of copper used in coins to combat rising copper prices. By 1982, the penny's composition changed from 95% copper and 5% zinc to a core of 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper plating. As a result, the 1984 penny, like its 1983 and 1982 counterparts, was struck with this new zinc composition. The 1984 penny was struck at the Denver Mint, which is indicated by the D mint mark on the coin's reverse. At that time, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies to meet the growing demand for small change across the country. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on what makes the 1984 penny stand out. The 1984 penny features a design that is well known to collectors. The obverse side shows a portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, which has been on the penny since 1909. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, which appeared on the penny from 1959 until 2008. But while the design remains familiar, it's the technical details that we need to pay attention to when it comes to its value. The 1984 penny is made of the new copper-plated zinc composition, meaning it's light in weight compared to older pennies. This shift in composition, while significant, didn't cause much of a stir back then. After all, a penny is still a penny, right? Well, as it turns out, the 1984 penny actually has a bit of a reputation in the world of coin collectors. While most 1984 pennies are fairly common, there's an interesting aspect to these coins that we'll discuss in just a moment. Now, let's talk about value. When most people think about a penny, they think about its face value, 1 cent. And that's the case for most 1984 pennies. In fact, if you pull a 1984 penny out of your pocket today, it's worth exactly 1 cent, just like any other modern penny. But here's where things get interesting. There's a certain type of 1984 penny that can be worth much more than its face value. Just like many other coins from the late 20th century, the 1984 penny has been the subject of a few unique and rare era coins that have caught the attention of collectors. Some of the 1984 pennies have been struck with a double die error, which means that the die used to stamp the coin was misaligned, causing the design to appear twice in a slightly offset position. These double die era pennies can be worth significantly more than the standard 1984 pennies, sometimes in the range of hundreds, or even thousands of dollars depending on the condition of the coin and how pronounced the error is. While most 1984 pennies are worth just 1 cent, the double die era coins can be worth anywhere from $100 to over $1,000 if they're in mint condition. Some of these era coins are sold at auction for even more, especially if they are graded well by professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC. Now that we know about the potential value of a 1984 penny with a double die error, let's talk about how you can actually identify one. It's not always easy, but with a little patience and the right tools, you can spot a valuable error coin. First, let's talk about the appearance of a double die error. The most obvious sign is that you'll see a double image of the design on the coin, particularly around the lettering and date. The most common areas affected are the word Liberty, the motto In God We Trust, and of course, the date. Take a close look at the date. On a double die error coin, the numbers may appear to be doubled or blurry. The best way to spot this error is to use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. If you see multiple impressions of the design in the same area, then you've likely got a double die error penny. Another way to check is by using a magnifying glass to inspect the lettering. If the letters seem to have a shadow or a faint second image beside them, this could be a sign of a double die error. Once you think you've found a double die error, the next step is to have it professionally graded and authenticated. A coin grading service will assign a grade to the coin based on its condition, and this can significantly affect its value. While the 1984 penny might seem like just another modern coin, its historical context and the possibility of error coins make it a valuable part of the U.S. coinage story. The market for rare coins continues to evolve, and as more people learn about the value of these hidden treasures, coins like the 1984 double die penny could become even more valuable over time. Of course, the value of any coin is dependent on its rarity, condition, and demand among collectors. As more collectors and investors enter the world of numismatics, coins from the 1980s, especially era coins, could see their value continue to rise. So, the 1984 penny may seem like just another coin, but with the potential for era varieties like the double die, it holds a special place in the hearts of collectors. While most of these pennies are worth only a cent, if you're lucky enough to find one of those rare era coins, you could be holding something far more valuable. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the 1984 1-cent coin. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me about any rare coins you've discovered. Until next time, keep searching those pennies, you never know what treasure you might find. There, coin collectors and history buffs. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating pennies ever minted, the 1983 1-cent coin. It may seem like just another penny at first glance, but trust me, there's a lot more to this coin than meets the eye. We'll take a look at its history, its value over time, and spoiler alert, how some of these pennies can be worth big money today. So stick around, and let's uncover the secrets of the 1983 penny. The 1983 1-cent coin belongs to a fascinating chapter in U.S. coinage history. To understand the significance of this penny, we need to go back to the early 1980s. By the time the 1983 penny was minted, the United States had already undergone some significant changes in coin production and design. In 1982, the U.S. Mint made a bold decision to change the composition of the penny. Due to rising copper prices and the increasing cost of producing copper coins, the Mint switched from using a 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy to a primarily zinc composition with a thin copper plating. This shift was a major change that would affect all pennies going forward. The 1983 penny was the first full year of these new zinc-based pennies, and it marked the beginning of a new era for U.S. coinage. So, why does the 1983 penny, in particular, stand out from the rest? Let's talk about the mint mark. The D on the 1983 D penny indicates it was minted in Denver, Colorado. The D mint mark appears on most of the 1983 pennies, but the coin's historical context makes it particularly interesting. While most of the 1983 pennies are relatively common, there's one reason why the 1983 D penny has become a favorite among collectors: a rare error that occurred during the minting process. Some 1983 D pennies were mistakenly struck on a copper planchet, which was left over from the previous copper-based coins. These errors, known as copper 1983 D pennies, are incredibly rare and highly sought after by collectors. While the majority of 1983 D pennies were struck on the new zinc planchets, a small number were struck on the older copper ones, making them extremely valuable. This error is what makes the 1983 D penny such a treasure. Imagine finding a coin that was struck with the wrong metal alloy. It's a mistake in the production process, but a mistake that can turn a regular penny into something truly special. So, what's the value of the 1983 D penny? Well, the majority of these coins are worth just 1 cent, as they were minted in large numbers and are quite common. However, when it comes to the rare copper-plated era coins, the value can skyrocket. These rare 1983 D copper era pennies can be worth anywhere from a few $100s to over $100,000, depending on their condition and authenticity. Some have sold at auction for astronomical prices. In fact, one 1983 D copper penny in pristine condition was sold for $200,000, making it one of the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever sold. But not all 1983 D pennies are created equal. The value of the copper era coins depends heavily on the condition of the coin and whether it has been authenticated. Coins that are in mint condition, with clear, well-defined details and no signs of wear, can fetch much higher prices than those in poor condition. Alright, now that you know how valuable these copper era pennies can be, let's talk about how you can identify a 1983 D copper era penny. It's not as simple as just looking at the date. So here are a few tips to help you spot the difference between a standard zinc penny and the rare copper era coin. First, let's talk about the weight. A standard 1983 D penny weighs about 2.5 grams, but the copper-plated era pennies weigh slightly more, around 3.1 grams, which is closer to the weight of the pre-1982 copper pennies. Next, use a magnet. The zinc pennies are magnetic, so if the penny sticks to a magnet, it's most likely not the copper era coin. However, a genuine copper era penny won't stick to the magnet. Another way to spot a copper era penny is by checking the color. The copper-plated era coins have a distinct reddish-brown color, similar to the pre-1982 copper pennies, whereas the standard 1983 D penny will have a lighter, more muted color due to the zinc content. Finally, the most important thing you can do if you think you've found a rare copper 1983 D penny is to get it professionally graded and authenticated. A coin dealer or grading service can help you determine its value and ensure it's the real deal. The 1983 D penny is just one example of the incredible hidden gems that can be found in everyday coins. Throughout history, coins have been minted with errors, and many of these mistakes have turned out to be highly valuable over time. Coins like the 1983 D copper era penny are prime examples of how the world of coin collecting is full of surprises. It shows us that even a simple penny can hold a story and a value far beyond its face value. If you're lucky enough to find one of these rare era coins, you could be holding a piece of history in your hands. Whether it's a rare copper 1983 D penny or another unique coin, the world of coin collecting is an exciting and rewarding hobby. While most pennies are worth only their face value, the rare ones can be worth much, much more. So next time you find a 1983 D penny in your change, take a closer look. You just might be holding something worth a lot more than 1 cent. Thanks for joining me today to explore the fascinating history and value of the 1983 D penny. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling me about your favorite rare coins. And if you have a 1983 D penny, well, you might just want to keep it close. Until next time, happy collecting!